Welcome back. You're still watching Nile Cruise. Even before the word archaeology was invented, people have been removing artifacts from their original context or location. Objects have been taken to be sold for profit, saved as souvenirs and put in museums. Often historically important artifacts that have been placed in large national museums have become points of national pride. This is most obvious in the case of the Egyptian Rosetta Stone in the British Museum. The Egyptian monuments have always been in danger. More importantly, instances of vandalism are not punished, and stealing and smuggling smaller objects or parts of larger structures has been underground business that had been forever. And unfortunately, the situation has gotten worse since the revolution erupted in 2011. To be speaking about this topic and even more, we're joined with the Assistant to the Ministry of Antiquities for Museum Affairs, Dr. Yasmin ElShazly. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Good morning, Yasmin, and let me ask you about your opinion. When some experts argue that it is important for countries to have the objects which reflect their cultural heritage and natural history, of course, in their own museums. For Egypt, Egypt is one of the countries that have thousands of monuments all over the world. How do you see this?
It depends on the situation. If the objects left Egypt legally, then we cannot claim them. Okay? And it's not so bad to have pharaonic objects from Egypt displayed in museums abroad, because they act as ambassadors of our civilization, to our civilization. So it's not such a bad thing, because not everybody can come visit Egypt, and it's good for people in other countries to have the opportunity to see monuments from our amazing civilization.
Yes. And the ongoing, loss of, we're speaking about lands like Aswan, for example, and Luxor, where there's a lot of artifacts that is being discovered and sold without even the country being known. And there has also been a lot of efforts by the ministry in returning back a huge amount. We usually, read in the press releases that the ministry supports with this huge amounts of artifacts returned to Egypt.
Yes.
This looks like, a huge situation or a massive thing to be recovered.
It is, of course. The problem is that there are illegal excavations. So people are digging in their land or in other people's land, trying to find antiquities, because Egypt, as you mentioned, is very, very rich in antiquities. So it's everyone's dream to find an artifact and sell it. Okay, and for some reason it's not seen by many people
as illegal.
They know it's illegal, but they don't know it's immoral.
Exactly.
Okay, and I think that's something that should be stressed in the media, that it is immoral. And that even terrorist organizations like ISIS are part of their funding, or a major part of their funding, comes from antiquities trade. So by selling antiquities illegally, you are actually funding terrorism. And that should be really stressed in the media,
That's a very different aspect of the story. But speaking to a lot of people within tribes in Aswan, for example, and they believe that this is their land,
it's their property.
Exactly, property, their grandfather's land. So
yes.
It's only normal that a land that they own for hundreds of years, that whatever is down there belongs to them and yes. Only them.
And unfortunately, I think there were someone gave a fatwa that that's not immoral, that's not haram, not immoral, that it's okay if you find it in your own land to sell it. But no, it does not belong to you if you find it in your own land. It actually belongs to the government, because the land belongs to you, but the antiquities belong to the nation yes. and to humanity. So by selling these artifacts and not recording them, because every artifact you find adds to our knowledge of history.
Yes.
Okay? So by not registering an object and not recording it and hiding it from the world, you are actually robbing humanity not only of the object but of history, of historical knowledge. So, and that should be seen as a crime, that you are actually depriving the world from very important information about the history of humanity.
Okay. Speaking about robbery and thefts now, the Egyptian Museum has been victim of robbery and theft during the 25th of January revolution, and that brought a very important topic to the surface. How safe are our monuments inside the country, not outside? Because then we discovered that the cameras inside the museum were not working, and that regardless of the security situation in the whole country, I mean, the cameras were not even working. So we need to focus on that. We need to provide better safety and security for our heritage, as you mentioned.
I think the ministry is doing a lot in that sphere, and the thing is that one of the most important things that should be done is to properly record objects and properly photograph them, because registered objects that have photographs and have ID numbers are very difficult to sell. So even if you steal an object that is registered and you manage to get it out of the country, it'll get caught eventually, because it's a registered object. All the authorities know about it. The Interpol knows about it. Any objects that are registered will sooner or later be found if they're not destroyed, but you cannot sell them. So by registering objects to protect them. And
so there were some objects that were not even registered?
No. In the Egyptian Museum, everything's registered, which is why we got many of them back.
Yes.
And eventually we'll get the rest back, I believe. But the most important problem is with unofficial or illegal excavations.
Yes.
Of course, the ministry is also working on improving the security systems everywhere. The cameras in the Egyptian Museum have been replaced, and there are a lot of procedures being done in improving security systems. The site magazines, the objects are being moved to the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization magazines, which are very, new magazines that are very well protected, very high tech, and
we've been there.
Yeah. Okay. So things are being done. The most important problem is with unofficial.
Yes, Yasmin, we were speaking about an important element. You spoke about the heritage, the heritage of Egyptians, the world heritage, which lies within the lands of Egypt. So part of the issue is not only about the illegal form, but also about the ignorance.
Yeah.
So you'll find a lot of things not related to artifacts. For example, if we're speaking about petrified forests, for example. I want to give an example here about the petrified forest in the New Cairo, which due to ignorance, people are using the land, which is like more or less a world heritage, to extract sand for building, rather than maintaining this as a world heritage. How would you comment on that?
I think, of course, education is very important. The media is very important. The Ministry of Antiquities should play an important role. So I think spreading knowledge and spreading awareness is a very, very important thing.
I think UNESCO should play a role in this regard, because in cooperation with the civil society, they can raise awareness campaigns targeting the people.
Yes, of course, civil society is also very important.
So is it about the people, or is it about the entire ecosystem? Because this is something that has to do with the Ministry of Interior protecting. It's about the government itself and how it protects the lands and provides the facilities to protect the lands and turn those areas into touristic areas. It's about the Ministry of Tourism and its vision towards development, and it's also about the Ministry of Antiquities.
Yes, of course. And I think all these entities should join forces, and they are actually cooperating in many areas to do this, to protect these sites. But also, I think, and this has been raised a lot by the ministry and other entities, that if the people living in these areas are benefiting from these sites, then they the local groups living in these areas, if you find ways for them to benefit from the sites, they will protect them. So, because I've heard of sites where the people protecting the sites were those selling souvenirs in the area, because that's how they earn a living. So if these sites get looted, they will suffer.
And what is the right way for a citizen to report looting or issues and problematic situations within sites that they see that are extremely historic and valuable?
The Ministry of Antiquities receives these people report to the Ministry of Antiquities and they report to the police.
Yes.
Okay. Yasmin, I want to ask you about the culture of museums. Perhaps if you go outside Egypt, if you go to any country, you would see that the people care much about their museums. They give special attention to museums, even if it's for cheese or some celebrity passed through this house. Now it's a museum.
Yeah.
We have all these artifacts here in Egypt, all these monuments, and we as Egyptians, we don't visit museums that much.
I think that's actually, it is a major problem in Egypt, but it is a problem everywhere. If you look at museums abroad, you'll notice that usually most of the people that visit museums are not from the country.
Yeah.
I'm not generalizing, but you know, it's usually the case. You usually take for granted what you have. But I think education has to play a very important role also, and the museums themselves. Making the museums more visitor friendly, museum education departments, and programs for children that will get children interested from a very young age are very important. So making, and that's what the ministry is doing now. I think, also using technology, mobile applications that are, you have an interactive game inside the museum. This will get
treasure hunt, for
treasure
example.
hunts.
Yeah.
These things will get people more interested in visiting the museum, and they'll look forward to visiting them. So I think that's.
What is the area, in your opinion, from the experience that you had, that is the most, the potential is there for Egypt for, going to the next level and having this vision of enhancement and development?
Can you repeat the question, please?
In your expertise, what is the potential, the extreme potential within your expertise? What is the area that you think there is a lot of potential where we can get towards, development, enhancement, supporting the entire ecosystem, looking at the interconnection between tourism and antiquities, definitely?
One thing that I worked on a lot, because I feel it's lacking, and that could be used to improve museums and actually maybe even generate income, is websites. And many people have complained that the museums don't have websites. So people don't know what's happening in these museums. They don't know anything about, they go to the museum, they feel lost. They don't know if they can take photographs, if they cannot.
It's a marketing channel awareness.
Yes, yeah. So you can market the museums through websites. You can inform people about events. You can educate people. You can also generate income if you can sell, for example, replicas online. If you can sell photographs online. If you can actually maybe, if different companies can advertise on the websites, you can generate a lot of money through these websites, and I think that's one of that was
Okay, Yasmin, what are the practices that we need to bring to archaeological professionals tasked with securing and preserving the nation's monuments?
You mean the archaeologists themselves?
Yes.
The thing is, the archaeologists themselves are not responsible for. Well, it depends if you're taking archaeologists as in the broader sense, as in people working for the ministry, who will include conservators,
yes,
Egyptologists, and museologists, and the problem. One of the main problems is money.
Yes.
So financing, increasing the income of the ministry is very important in order to be able to better protect the sites. Using technology, better security systems, training the security staff, because security staff, there are people from the Ministry of Interior, but there are also security personnel from the ministry. And if you train them better, that's also a plus. And also maybe educating the security personnel, giving them courses about the importance of what they're protecting as well. Because if you're protecting something that you don't feel is important, that's also a problem.
Yes. And you definitely visited a lot of museums in Egypt, being part of your scope. We'd like to know your personal experience about the top museum that people are not really knowing, that you want to maybe excite people to visit.
Well, I'm an Egyptologist, but I also loved the Royal Jewelry Museum in Alexandria.
Oh, this is the first time I hear about it.
This is what I'm talking about.
It's a lovely museum.
So what is that exactly?
It has the jewelry of the royal
remains.
Of the royal family. So
wow, that's interesting. And how well is it preserved or visited, in your opinion, today?
The museum?
Personally, I never knew about it.
When I went there, I think I went there after hours, so I don't know. But
the level of visits, yes.
No, I don't think it's as much as it should be from the statistics.
Okay. Yasmin ElShazly, we enjoyed very much talking to you about this very important topic, the issue of museums and preserving the Egyptian monuments. We hope to see you again soon in this program, but for now, I'd like to thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmin, for coming.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, stay with us. We'll be right back after a short break.